Best way to avoid losing consciousness on the log. Come on, the log father.
Smelling salts increase blood flow to the brain. I've researched this fucking a shit ton, mate, and I still don't have a fucking biscuit. I even got into...
This is British Strongman Podcast with Josh Lancaster and Shane Jerman. Strongman programming and technical excellence for everyone. Boom. Best way to avoid losing consciousness on the log. Come on, the log father. What are the possible causes of this phenomenon? Electrolyte imbalance, sodium deficiency.
I've researched this fucking a shit ton, mate, and I still don't have a fucking biscuit. So I even got into, there's a vein, an artery even, that the pelvis, when your pelvis goes into anterior pelvic tilt, can shut off blood flow, especially if there's neck's an extension, can shut off blood. I've delved right deep into this, but I still don't know, because I try to just impel this position on people, all sorts. I've just decided that there's many, it's a multifactorial issue that fuck knows how to fix it. There's a couple of things. Salts, some people like raising the blood pressure before they lift. You know, they'll just literally stand there and go, and get full loads of blood to the head, then they do log. Yeah. Sometimes it can be a blood sugar thing as well. You know, there's a lot of things that it can be. Breathing as well. Sometimes people don't breathe correctly. Like they hold their breath from the lap all the way from the clean. I suggest breathe in, brace, pick up and lap, breathe out, breathe back in before you clean. That way you've not held your breath as long. Your blood pressure will be a little bit down. There's a load of cueing things that you can do. But straight up, I don't know the answer, mate, unfortunately. I wish I could say to you, fucking have 2 grams of salt, 3 grams of carbs, and slap yourself in the head 3 times, you'll be fine. But I don't know the cheat code.
So I think that these things can make it worse for sure. Like if you're dehydrated and whatever, and you haven't, say, eaten for a while, like you're lightheaded before the session or whatever.
And by the way, if you don't know, Josh is a good person to ask this question to, because he fucking face plants every session. So he's probably tried everything under the sun, I imagine, of you.
Yeah. And I noticed it does get worse. Like if I'm dehydrated or like, and I noticed that it was happening in during a training block. And then I played around with my kind of carbs before I started having some porridge before my log session, get some carbs in, and that helped a little bit. But I think that's just taking the things away that are making it a lot worse and kind of. But I mean, the fundamental thing is I just think you're choking yourself out, aren't you? Like essentially, you know, like you were saying about.
I think it is the rack position. My opinion on it, that I don't know the answer, but my opinion on it is it's the rack position and the position of the neck. The reason why I believe this is because I used to get that all the time. Well, not all the time, maybe 40% of the time, and I've like lightheadedness.
But now you've got 3D anterior delt.
Well, no, it's because I strict press now, and my strict press rack position relies more on thoracic and a little bit of lumbar extension over extension in the C-spine. So I don't get it when I strict log. I do get it when I push press log. When I'm in a vertical stacked rack position with Pez dispenser head, I get it. When I'm in strict press back snap position, I don't get it.
Yeah. So I think this is I think improve your rack position generally. That's going to be the number one thing.
I think it would be cool to test if you got a C-spine adjustment, maybe got a little bit of adjustment in your neck, create a bit more space there. You know, when they wrap the towel under your chin and extend your head and an extra inch, maybe that'll create a bit of space action. And maybe when you're in extension, something's going on. It's because I believe it's a blood flow thing, not an oxygen thing. It must be a blood flow thing because nothing can make you go like that other than blood flow to the brain. So it must be something to do with blood flow, in my opinion. It must be, because you can literally you can be there in rack and then you can be bum off. So, yeah.
So a thing that's worked for me, and I'm not saying I recommend it, I'm just saying it works for me, is like I have smelling salts like immediately before the lift. Like if you watch literally any of my log videos, that if I didn't crop the the bit that I crop out that's like 3 seconds before is always me having smelling salts and then lobbing my smelling salts and then quickly getting, and that really stops me going lightheaded. And the thing with like a lot of people use smelling salts because they get they use it for the arousal, whereas I don't use it for that at all. Like smelling salts used to be used for bringing people around when they passed out, basically. So yeah, use that as like a preventative thing. And like literally, like sometimes I'll go in and like use the empty log, 50, 60 kilo log. And then I wake up, I'm on the floor. I'm thinking, fuck me, why am I on the, what happened? And then
I wonder if smelling salts are vasodilators.
I'm not sure.
I wonder if when you hit a smelling salt and it sends that signal, I wonder if it's a vasodilator and it increases blood flow. And maybe that's why it helps. Because maybe if this is restricting blood flow to the brain, the salt allows better blood. I don't know why, but it definitely does work that. Because I've told a lot of people to do that. And they say, oh, yeah, this helps a lot. But I don't know why it does it.
Yeah. So eliminate all the other little things. Like say you make sure you've had enough carbs, make sure you're not dehydrated and stuff. Improve that rack position. Some people, the technique.
A quick
is just
Google, Josh, does say smelling salts increase blood flow to the brain.
Well,
so
there's your answer. What percentage progress do you aim for on lift? What do you think here?
I'll be weird. It's hard. I don't work in percents, mate. I'll be honest. So I don't aim for any percent, and also I go with the flow of a program system because, sometimes you'll do a training block and a certain lift will just naturally take priority and end up progressing really well. And if that is, I'll be like, oh, I'll take advantage of this. And sometimes we'll have a bigger percent jump than others. Sometimes you do a training phase and there isn't really a goal to progress a percentage. It's more to progress the work capacity, or there's a bit more to a training phase than always just progressing a percentage, so to speak. There's a lot, it's a lot more. That's a very small part of what strength training is. So I don't even consider that half the time, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't know how what you.
I think the goal setting is the key here, and I think if you can get too obsessed with like quantifiable targets, and the problem is like we're all so different and individual that if you're trying to quantify kind of targets and goals like this, you're just gonna set yourself up for failure, because a lot of the time you're not gonna. What if you improve? Like you're doing 8-week block and you put 5 kilos on your deadlift, but you were trying to project 8 kilos. Like you've smashed it. You've done great.
Here's an example, right? Shane Flowers is a 420 deadlifter. His last training block, he's just finishing it now on deadlift. We started with 175 sets of 10. Feedback week 1. Back pump after 3 sets, fucking glutes seizing up, boom, dying. Week 6, he did like 250 for sets of 10. No back pump, 2 minutes rest, felt great. Work capacities he's not put a percent on anything. His work capacity is mad. And that was a whole training phase. And it's setting him up for the next block. So now he can handle more volume. He gets more recovery. He can do work after the deadlifts that he couldn't do before because he had back pump and was lying on the floor. So that's a whole different progression point that's not even thinking about the percent.
Yeah. And I think this is, and obviously that's brilliant, elite results. And I think
that's something that can drastically change the next phase.
Yeah.
But we didn't plan that phase like, I need to make sure. Like a lot of people plan training a bit wrong, don't they? Just they go, I've got a 280 deadlift. I have to get 290 this next block. And I'm like, well, you don't. Like that could be 4 blocks down the line, So, yeah.
Yeah, or pull 270 for a speed rep at the end of the next block, feeling great whilst pushing the other event or whatever.
Yeah, recovering better from, the 260 to 280 range. being able to do it more consistently rather than needing a peak. There's loads of stuff you can do.
So I can see as like a beginner or novice, like you can see be careful getting addicted to the gratification of these kind of quantifiable progresses every training block, because they are going to get significantly more difficult the further down the line you go. But everybody can progress 1% better every week across the board that's my mantra that I live by in like every aspect of my life. And always and you know how I measure it? I just ask myself, do I think I've got a little bit better this week at this? And yes, like I do, and that's enough. And if there are some like quantifiable measures I can get in there, then great. But if you're just focusing on the metrics, like it can be a dangerous game, because you can very easily get yourself let down when actually very often like you've smashed it, but you're not giving yourself the credit for it. So just try and get a little bit better all the time. I know it sounds cheesy, but get addicted to that. Do we need to focus on bracing for the deadlift, or would it be better served to attain your position, let the arms hang long and push through the floor with the legs?
Man, I'm not sure why those are separate, but you can do both.
Yeah, I think like I've read this question a couple of times. I think I think what an error that a lot of people do is they feel that they have their method of bracing. Like, say, a lot of people will brace when they breathe in, a lot of people will brace when they breathe out. A lot of people will kind of just hold the breath where it is. Like there's a lot of different bracing techniques. Whereas if you kind of breathing in, as you breathe in and take a air into your diaphragm, like that's automatically going to take you into more extended position at the torso. Yeah. And then if we focus on exhaling, we can focus on pushing the ribs down, and then that's going to promote more kind of a flex position. So, like, analyze yourself. Like, what's your resting posture? Are you more extended? Are you more flexed? Like, what can you do? What can you do to bring yourself more neutral? What would say on the deadlift would be, if you want to kind of put yourself at a mechanical advantage, like have a bit of a play around with setting your pelvis. Like I've made this error in the past where I used to take a massive breath, a massive inhale, send my diaphragm up, which would send me into like extension and then anterior pelvic tilt, and then I'm a lot further away from the bar in the start position. Whereas like I felt a lot better over time. And we've done it with clients where I'm focusing on, especially because a lot of us are quite extended at the lumbar. Like if you've got anterior pelvic tilt, like actually focus on doing like pushing the ribs down, and then kind of taking a breath whilst keeping the ribs down, and then focusing on keeping that position. Like as you're gonna get lower down to the bar, that's gonna shorten the range of motion a little bit, but. So it's not kind of one or the other, is it, Shane? Like you can.
No, you want to find your most optimal position, and then learn to brace in that optimal position, and then you sweep. If you're bracing and it's moving you, like the thing that I think sometimes people think brace means like retract scapula as well. And I kind of feel like maybe this guy might be thinking that, like he's getting his arms long and then he's going brace and pulling them back. And he's saying which is the best to do. That maybe that's kind of what's going on here. I don't know. But just because you have your arms long and you're driving with your legs doesn't mean you can't be braced in that. Like the twins pull like that, don't they? They're braced in that. They're not, if you tried before the twins go to lift, if you were to push them or do anything, they are solid. They're created so much force and tension in that position, even though they've got long arms, protracted shoulders, etc. So yeah, you need to learn to blend the two, my friend, and it will come together and feel amazing.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point that you've made about actually I've gone against the thing that I preach now on all the other exercises, where I always say, like, right, find the optimal bar path and then learn what to do with your body after that. Whereas actually I've just said about, right, sort your brace out and then get into position. Whereas actually just take what Shane said about the deadlift and actually find your optimal position, like with an empty bar, or put 60 kilos on the bar so you can actually just, like, you can pull your body weight against it, kind of thing, and find your ideal start position and have a little bit of play with the pelvis position. Have a look at some of these cues that people say about getting tight with the lats and stuff. One that I like is like about imagine you're trying to put your armpits into your back pocket. I think a lot of people make the error of retracting the scapula, and then they get retract the scapula 50-60%, they feel all right, and then, like we said before, they go heavier and then they get pulled over. Whereas if you focus on almost like separating your scapula, and you might have an easier time getting your lats tight, focusing on putting these shoulder blades into your back pocket, and you're going to be able to brace it. You're going to be able to get into a lot more solid position that you're more likely to maintain throughout the lift.